All right, welcome to the next session of our integration testing. So we are doing the controller testing, and in this case I'm going to proceed to delete department. And now for you to be able to delete, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the data within the database, or maybe invoking the create department, and then from there we can be able to get back the department that was created, and then from there we can try to delete that. So what I'm going to do here is going to be simple. I'm going to make use of the same code that we have here for the first point of creating. So I'm going just to copy that down here to the delete. So given this department request, we create that particular payload, and we have an entity within the DB. The next thing that we are going to do is actually from this particular department response, we are going to get the actual department response that we got back. So I'm going to obtain that as one of the data so that we can make use of its ID to delete. So to get that, we are going to say response dot get body, and this is going to give us the department. Alright, so for that I'm going to ensure that this is going to be assigned to the department response. So I'm going to have this one, department response equal to the response dot get body. Alright, so this is our department response, and a few things to remember is that this one might be null, so you can ensure that that is null check. So you're going to say objects dot require null, and we are going to supply the response dot get body. Right, so once this is done, we have the department. Now we need to make a call to the delete endpoint, which is going to be similarly like this one. So I'm going to copy this particular REST endpoint and paste it here. But then remember, within our delete department, we actually getting a map of string object. Right, so that is what I'm going to give us the parameterized value. So I'm going to give that as the parameterized value, and what I'm going to get back is going to be the same. Right, and this particular one is going to be the delete response. So I'm going to have that as delete response, and the next thing that we're going to change here, we're going to make use of TestRestTemplate to exchange the API base path. But then remember, this is the base path. Now we need to append the department number, and the department number we are going to get it from the previous department response. So we are going to make use of a plus, and then quote slash, and then plus the department response dot get. We are going to make use of dot get department number. So that is going to be slash the value that we get back from our create response. Now the next thing that we're going to do here, the method is not going to be post. We're going to make use of delete HTTP method. We're not sending anybody, so we're going to send null. So we're going to supply null here, and then from there our new parameterized value, which is going to be a map of data coming back. All right, so with that we are going to make use of the same assertion that we had for our service on the department test whenever we are doing the delete. So I'm going just to copy for the assertion of the map. We're going to have that. So quickly I can copy the delete. So we're going to assert those two, that whatever map that we get back is actually containing the value. So the first thing we are going to do is also ensure that this particular delete response is actually conforming to status 200. So I'm going just to assert that particular status code to be 200. Okay, right, so I'm going to have that as 200. Okay, and then here we are going to assert this particular delete response map, and this one I'm going to have the delete response. We need to obtain the actual entity of the map, so I'm going to say delete response map equal to so I'm going to have the map of string equal to the delete response dot get body. So you need to make use of the get body, and for this we are going to ensure that it's not null. So we're going to make use of objects dot require null, and then we are going to require the response body to be not null. And then now this response delete response map is what we are going to make use of to assert these particular values. So you can see that now we are able to assert that it's actually able to delete true and success is being returned. Alright, so that's all that we're going to do for this particular test case. Alright, yeah, and that's all for the delete. So we can run again the tests. I'm going to rerun the entire class with coverage. And run this with coverage. So our test is going to run, and application is being started, and you can see that MySQL is waiting for connection to be up. Alright, so we wait for the test to run. Right, so you can see the application is being started, the entire application context, and we are making use of the default profile for now, and proceeding further. You can see the database connection has been obtained, the entities have been created and the table, and what we're going to have next is going to be the insert statement, which is going to ideally insert the value or the department to the DB. Then from there we are able to select at the point we are trying to search for that, checking whether it exists. And then from there we are doing the insert or the delete statement. Then this particular case, you can see that we're able to insert data, right, and then delete the entire data for each particular test, because that is what we specified. Whenever we have any test being run, then we are able to do the insertion and then the selection. So you can see that this one was able to do the first one. This is the first test of creating the department and then listing the values. And then for this one, it's going to insert values and then select for deletion and then delete the value. All right, so that's all to do with the create department and delete department. So what we're going to do next is going to ensure that these other additional methods are actually tested. So if we check on our department controller, you can see now that the delete mapping is actually green because we ran with our coverage. So the next thing that we need to do is do the same thing for get mapping and put mapping. So to do that one quickly, we're going to copy the particular test for creating. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ensure that we're able to create the value. So for getting the department, so we're going to ensure that we're able to create. And then the next thing that we're going to do is going to be similar to what we did here to get the response body. I'm going to copy that down here. All right, so we are getting the department response that was created from the previous section. Then from here, what we're going to do now is going to be simple. In this case, for our get by department number, now instead of sending the delete, it's going to be API paste path / the value or the ID of the department. And then the method we are going to make use of is going to be get. And what we are going to get back as parameterized the reference is going to be of type department response. All right. So that is what we're going to get back as the value. So we can assign this one into a local variable, and we have that as get by a department ID or number response. So we're going to have that get by department number response, and now we can be able to start again on this particular one. So I'm going to copy this one and have the actual department response that we got back. So here we are going to have simply a department response, get department response, right? So this is one to say get department response by number, right? Is going to be equal to objects require a null, and we are going to make use of this get department number response dot get body. And in this case you can see department, so this one is going to be department response department by number. Okay, we can just simplify it that way. Now we have this one, department by number. Now what we're going to do here is going to also assert that this particular value is actually 200. So first, before we get the payload, we are going to assert that this particular response, which is going to be this one, is going to be 200, right? So we have to ensure that this one, this call was actually successful before we extract the payload. Now from here we can be able to make use of assert that the department response dot get number, department number, this one should be equal to what we got when we created the value. So I'm going just to copy that, then dot is equal to this particular department response dot get department number. So I'm going to assert that whatever we got when we were creating the entity is actually what we get when we make the call to get by that particular ID. And that is all that we have to do. And then those two assertions should be okay. So this should be the department number, which is supposed to be that department by number should be equal to the department response get department number. So those are two assertions, and we can run now the entire tests again. So I'm going to run with coverage again, and you can see that now the get endpoint by department number is actually done. So we'll be able to do the next one for update, and we'll be able to be done with our controller testing, which is the integration testing, in that we are bootstrapping the entire application context. Right, so I'm going to open my debug console here. So we are waiting for the connection to be up for us to start the application. Right, so the application is starting and the connection has been obtained, and here you can see to it that we are starting the entire application. Yeah, and the tables have been created with also the indexes and also the unique constraints, and you can see here we got an error, and we are going to determine what particular error we getting. So the first thing that you're going to see here is going to be, you can debug this one, that let me try to scroll up. You can see that the first thing that I'm doing here is that on the delete statement I'm trying to insert the same computer science department. So let me just change the name and for our tests to ensure that the other tests should be okay. So what I'm going to do, instead of that, I'm going to just quickly change the name, and in this case it's going to be another name for another department, so information technology, because we are running the test concurrently, and definitely that will be able to have the same data from the previous test. So to do that, I'm going to rerun again the tests. So let me rerun with coverage again. Okay, so let me open my debug console. So it's starting to connect to Docker desktop and starting up the container. Right, so the application is starting, and it's bootstrapping the JPA repositories, creating the DB tables for that. Right, so it's been able to create that. It's running the tests, and again we got an issue because we are using the same code base for the create statement. So what I'm going to do ideally is going to be a bit different. So we check here, you can see that it's again talking about the unique constraint. So let me just quickly fix that one once and for all, so I can be using a different department for each particular test. And to have that, I'm going to change a bit on the tests. This one is going to be information, maybe this one is going to be business. So let me have a different department for each test, business, commerce. Then for this one, information technology, for get, I'm going to have another computer science, I think, information technology, and then business commerce. So that should be able to sort the errors that we are seeing. Let me run one last time. Right, so we are hopeful that for this particular moment we'll be able to have the tests running, in that each should have its own data. Alright, so you can see that all the tests have been able to execute, and we have been able to shut down the controller. So that should be able to give us now a coverage of almost 90%. So we just need to do an additional test for the update department, and that should be able to finally give us the best data that we require. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the same thing in terms of the create up to that point. I'm going to copy that actually up to the second one, then we can change the assertions. So I'm going just to copy that as for the get. Now we are going to create another department, which is going to be engineering. Alright, so with this engineering department, we are going to create that particular payload, then we are going to set the value. Then the next thing that we're going to get is the department response. And lastly, what we're going to do here, we're going to make use of put request. And then our request entity is going to be new HTTP entity, and then we need to have a new department value that we are going to set. Basically, because here, once we get the department created, we are going to update by that value, and then we need the department request. So I'm going to create another department request here, builder department name. I'm going to supply a different name. For this case, I'm going to have telecommunication. Maybe you can have tourism and hospitality. Right, so I'm going to update once the engineering department is created. I'm going to try and update that with a new name, and for this case we are going to make use of a put requests, and we need to have this one coming from HTTP method put, and the next thing that we're going to get back is going to be ideally department response. So what we're going to do is going to say update response. So you're going to have this one as update response, and this particular update response we are going to confirm that it's actually 200. Okay, all right, that's the first thing. And then from there we need to extract this now new updated department response and confirm that it's not equal to the engineering and department. So what we're going to do here, we're going to make use of the objects require and null again. This one the response body is going to be for this update response get body, and this one is going to give us a value of department response, which is going to be another department response, which is the updated. So I'm going to say updated department response equals to this. Right, now from here then we need now to assert the different things here. So we are going to say assert that the updated department response dot get department name is equal to, so we need to have is equal to, and we are going to confirm it against this one, which is going to be that. Remember, I needed to have the dot build here so that I'm able to get an entity of department request. So we're going to check that it's actually equal to the tourism and hospitality, and then we are going also to assert that ideally that is what we need to assert, that the new updated department is equal to that. And then the next thing that we need to assert is that the actual ID that is being returned should be equal to what we got from the department response creation. So this one, all right, so we are going to make use of updated department response dot get department number should be equal to, is equal to the department response that we got higher on creation dot get department number. All right, so that marks the end of our tests in terms of our methods. So let's run all the tests in one go and confirm that they are actually working okay. So run with coverage. All right, so let me clear this. Alright, so the application is being started, and we're going to run all the tests to the database integration tests. Alright, so you can see that the tables have been created, the application has been started. Now the REST template is actually invoking those endpoints, and you can see that all the tests have been able to succeed. There is no error and everything looks green. Now let's go to the department control and confirm. You can see that now our end-to-end department control has been tested. Now that's it all with regard to integration testing. So in the next phase, we are going to now ensure that we are we minify the code that is being used here in terms of those services which require to make use of the service containers. We're going to centralize this particular configuration in one go so that we can be able to reuse that within the controller testing and also the JPA repository testing. So remember to subscribe, comment whenever you have issues, and you check out the code on our repo that is linked in the video description below, and you'll be able to check whenever you find issues and validate against. So thank you for watching the video. Remember to share, like and comment. Until next time, bye bye.